Genius. Stephen Strauss here. Very excited to have two guests today where we dive a little bit deeper, actually, not just talking about AI and its effectiveness in marketing, but where we dive a little bit deeper in a very specific case study on how three very important areas of marketing can all come together and work appropriately. And that would be content and sourcing of that content or creating the content, turning that content into effective ads, and then ultimately having those ads be optimized across media buying. Really excited to bring in actually a CIPIO customer, Troy McFarland from Fitness SF, who's going to give us a little bit of an overview on that and talk a little bit more too with Collier Hammons today of Superbad Ads, who is also our partner in bringing all of this to life, what we're now calling CIPIO's Fitness 360 package. So very excited to have everybody here today to talk about those three things. Love to also, I guess, first just start out with a round of introductions. Troy, why don't you give an introduction for the audience?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. My name is Troy McFarland. I am the Director of Marketing for Fitness SF. We're a local family-owned chain of gyms in the Bay Area. We have 8 locations. I've been with the company for about 12 years, 2 years in sales and 10 in marketing. So we've grown from 4 locations to 8 and continuing to look for opportunities. So, been here since the beginning of the brand.
Awesome. Love that. Thanks for joining us today. Collier, how about you? Quick intro for the group.
Yes, I'm Collier Hammons. Collier, like call your friend. I'm the founder of Superbad Ads and lead consultant. And we are a kind of new on the scene marketing consultancy designed to help you with your paid ads, your social, and your SEO, all built on making and utilizing great content, which is created, of course, by our good friends over at CIPIO. So what we are, built on is making a strong and connected, cohesive strategy that brings together the digital fundamentals and ultimately helps every business succeed in the digital landscape and in the ways that they have to in 2024 and beyond. Love
that. And yeah, definitely check out all the great work that Superbad Ads is doing. In bringing all this together, one of the things that I'm really excited to talk about today, Troy, is whenever we talk about AI, when a lot of people talk about AI, there's this very generic understanding of like, oh, are you using AI at your business? Yes, or no, or well, that's not a real answer. And I love like what you guys are doing is you're taking the first steps as a partner with CIPIO in truly jumping on and leveraging all of the value that AI can bring to this world of a more enhanced philosophy around what your social strategy looks like. Right? And probably even your broader marketing strategy. So with that, so I'm not the one telling the story. Where I'd love to start is, we've been down this road, we've been partners for a long time, but what are some of the challenges that you were seeing, given you've been at the business for 12 years, what are the challenges that you were seeing, 2 or 3 years ago that led you to start to source out like, hey, we need to think a little bit differently of the way that we're looking at our marketing initiatives and mapping it to some specific or correlating it to some very specific results that we need to see as a business. How did that come about?
I think so. The first thing that comes to my mind is, creating content in general can be daunting. Like, especially for small gym owners or small studio owners or any small business owners, it's like you talk about social media and they're just like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't know, like, do they have to be a creator and a business owner? Like, they have to do all this. And some of these people, they have to right away. And when it gets to a point where you like feel like you can't keep up. And so you start to figure out ways, a gym, for example, Fitness SF, a lot of our business is based on referrals. So who do you trust? Is your friends. So it's like, if you kind of take that theory and say, okay, well, if Fitness SF keeps pushing out their own content saying like, here's us, here's the brand, look at us, look what we're doing, it's still us trying to sell them instead of the community talking about what they love about Fitness SF. So then it's shifted to, okay, we have one social media guy. He can't do everything while he's trying to engage and message people back and comment and like, along with creating content. So then it goes to, okay, well, how do we utilize our staff or our member base to start filtering out, or like getting content? And so then I had met Kelly, who was originally with CIPIO, and she started telling us about the cool stuff you guys were doing. And we met at the Fitness Technology Summit, which is coming up. And that's another thing, is like finding like-minded people at like-minded events when we talk about finding right partners. And so then, then that was kind of, once I saw the software and what it could do, I was like, oh, this could amplify us tremendously with, and so
content, right? Like that's the first thought is, man, just the content production, content curation, just being able to have enough creative. How can I do that? And not just how can I do it, but how can I do it affordably, right? And so that's where the journey begins, is in finding somebody that can do that. And what was your experience in working with CIPIO and being able to like see that first piece come to life?
It was great. I mean, we obviously had people tagging us at the gym on social media, and but when you start creating this partnership where it looks more official, and it is more official, and then everything else, it used to just be user generated content, but then it turned into brand ambassadors or collaborations, and it started to grow. And that's when people were really like leaning into partnering with brands, like individual consumers. And so then it really took off. Then it was like, okay, CIPIO does the recruiting for us, so I don't have to sift through Instagram and TikTok all day. Or, I mean, that's just another add-on to what the social media job was, which was like, oh, well, now you have to recruit and see if their content's good. It's like, okay, that's just another layer on top of my job already, or the social media person's job. Then it became like, okay, CIPIO does the recruiting. They're using their software. It's, utilizing AI to help scan and filter and find people that would fit right with your business, that are already kind of living this lifestyle and doing these things. And then I get to go in, meet with the account manager, say, yes, no, this aligns with our brand. And then boom, then it's all handled from the CIPIO side. And then we get people in the gym working out and actually sharing and showcasing what they love about it. And it's been a game changer in that sense. So we're getting a ton of content, a ton more exposure. It's amplifying. We're using the members as quote unquote sales or brand ambassadors, whatever you want to say. But these are people who want to share and talk about it anyways. They want to share their fitness journey specifically. And so what better way to do it than, we do free memberships for these people. And some people we do a little extra, maybe personal training, or we haven't gotten to the paid part yet, but people are willing to do that.
Yeah, and just to put a bit of a quantitative understanding of that, right? There's a lot of people that'll promise you, quote unquote, a lot of content over a certain amount of time. I think, if I was looking at it the other day, in just a couple of years that we've been working with you guys, over 1,000 videos provided to Fitness SF for use across all of the different marketing efforts that you have, and all done at an extremely affordable price, right? Like the ability to go, you talked about, like, man, how do I just start thinking about that content? And then everybody starts to get to a point where, can I see the forest through the trees? And then when you get to actually stop for a second and look back, if I had told you 2 years ago when we started working together, hey, if I could promise you 1,000 videos from that promote your gym, multiple locations at your gym over the course of the next 2 years, would you be interested in that? You'd probably think, oh my gosh, sure, but that's astronomical price. And yet I think that's been the neat thing too, is as much as fun as it is to be able to work with a great team, right? And a good partner that was willing to explore all the different avenues that you're looking for, find the right creators, do all the work that you mentioned is so time consuming. The other piece is like, man, not only are they willing to do it, but like the results show themselves as well. And I got this huge repository of content that, by the way, you own in perpetuity, that you can do anything with. And it naturally then begins to beg the question, well, what are you doing with it, right? You got all this content. So how did you guys first start to think about using and leveraging this type and style of content as it first started to roll in?
That's a great question, because initially I'm like, we got all this content. It's easy to kind of share in real time as people are tagging you and stuff. But then it's like, how do you use this stuff? So then actually that in my mind started to become another like weight on the shoulders of like, okay, now I'm getting all this content. How do I get it out fast enough? So that's where the next step of the partnership came in with CIPIO with you guys. Is we started brainstorming on, it's fairly kind of a new offering, maybe in the last year or two here of creating the ad content from all the content we get from all the creators. So once you guys started showing me how fast that could be done using your tools, that then took those 1,000 videos and said, oh, we can filter all these, scan them, create the hook, create the message, showcase the problem, give the social proof, the whole formula, and pump out these ads. And that's when it became powerful, when it's like, okay, now there's an engine you're dropping everything into. It's creating it for you, or curating it for you, and then popping out a produced ad, basically. And with some oversight of obviously good creative eyes to make sure that it matches with the brand and everything like that. And I think to kind of touch back a little bit, there was somebody I was speaking on a panel at a conference, and somebody asked, like, we're trying to get our trainers to do content. We're trying to get, like, how do you get them to do all this stuff? And I said, I don't, like, because if you start telling people like, hey, I need content from people that just don't want to do it or have no interest, that's what it's going to look like when you post it. So it's like all these creators that CIPIO's finding clearly want to do this. So then that translates out to, like, that energy and enthusiasm translates out.
Yeah, well, it's about authenticity at the end of the day, right? Mm-hmm. And so now what you're alluding to is, like, we needed to find these authentic content creators for all of the locations that we have, and as we've been growing locations too. One of those challenges, right? Because I need new members, right? Let's just go back, right? The goal here is new members. So how do I effectively do that? Well, we needed to revamp our content strategy. Now we've got these authentic content creators that want to be creating it, not that are being forced to create it, right? That want to be creating this content. And then to the second piece is like, well, now all of a sudden, if I've got 1,000 pieces of content, I wanted more, I needed more, but now I've got all this content. How do I get the most out of it? Which is the part that I think you allude to next, which is kind of, is aligned with the strategic thinking that our founding team had, which is, okay, great, sourcing the content is just one piece. How do we also make it easy to then leverage that in the most effective way? And by the way, track the effectiveness, track the performance. Paid social is a natural place to do that. And so it's really great to be able to partner with you guys saying, man, there's so much of this content. I got the first piece, content. Now I take that content, I can use AI, right? Again, in both areas, but I can use AI and stitch it into these ready-made modularized ads that I can map back to very specific performance against my goals, and then continue to optimize the creative, right, across the board. But then the natural question that comes up is like, hey, man, you said earlier, you guys have 8 locations. There's gyms come in varying, gym brands come in varying shapes and sizes. And so then it becomes, okay, but if I'm going to use it in paid, I gotta have all these other pieces in line to make sure that my paid strategy, just having the content and then just turning it into an ad is not enough. And for a location, I want you to tell this story, not me. I just get excited about it. But essentially, right, like now the idea becomes, okay, how can I also look at optimizing my paid efforts amongst this great content and amongst these ads that my partner is creating for me? And so why don't you talk me through a little bit about that? Like, how are you guys thinking about that? What was needed? Like you mentioned one person being able to do all this. Like what was needed, and how are you starting to think about optimizing your paid social strategy overall?
Yeah, so this is kind of where Collier and Superbad ads comes in, because I typically was running digital ads for us. I was just doing Google and Instagram, Facebook back in the day, but not so much anymore. It's more just Instagram, Google, and I hadn't even started TikTok yet. We were just doing original content on TikTok. And, it's fairly, I wouldn't say easy, but, to just run the ads and say, here, send people to my website, join now, blah, blah, blah. But But to really make sure that you're not just wasting your money, there are so many other details that have to be thought through. And that's where Collier and his team came in because, from our side, we had to do we were going down the custom development path anyways. So we have our own custom join online. So then we're able to put our own code in there and track, every page they're going to and whether they're actually converting. We use HubSpot. So then, if we're just doing lead generation, not just joining, but lead generation, like that's easily trackable now. But without, then you go down this whole like privacy policy, cookie consent, sharing data, like that's its own thing. So there's so many different pieces to then optimize what you're spending. And so that's kind of where Collier came in to help. And again, we because you guys are a good partner, not to just like, praise CIPIO right now, but it's like for real. I mean, it comes to, we don't want to just pay for a service or software. Like we want a true partner. We want to pay for a partner that's going to be there and do these things and brainstorm and say, hey, how can we get creative on, maybe it's something we don't exactly offer, but we're going to start to figure out how we do this for you to make you successful. And so that's the best thing you can do when you're paying a company or paying a service is like they're banking on your success. Like if they don't make you successful, then what are they doing? Right. So, and that's what everyone wants when they're spending money on something. They want it to give them what they want, which is either, grow our membership base, showcase that this is worth doing. So yeah, stepping back a second. So before pre-COVID, we had 4 people on the marketing team. Now we only have 2, which is kind of wild. But we do have a couple partners we work with that have kind of picked up those areas and have run with the ball there. So you guys being one of them. And so Collier's been a big help in just helping me understand how many of these details with tracking and making sure the data is right and making sure everything is set up properly. Because if you can't track it on the other end, then you don't really know where the money's going or how to, gauge that.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe Collier can kind of talk on that point.
Well, I was going to say one of the things in Collier, just 1 second, but one of the things that I'm hearing from you, Troy, is, your marketing team is limited, but your output isn't, right?
Exactly.
Point, like your goals, just because the team is small doesn't mean that you don't have goals. You guys are still growing locations. You're still a growing business. And so how do you find the right partners to be able to enable that? And what I'm hearing too is now we've moved from just this idea of where we started this conversation of how do we get more content into how do I let this content be in a super effective paid social strategy that I can deliver new memberships for. And so Collier, Troy was talking a little bit about, hey, like we got to make sure we're looking at the right things and looking at the right data and all that kind of stuff. I'd love to hear a little bit from you around like what you saw going in, like, hey, where are the areas that we need to check, that we need to audit, that we need to understand how HubSpot and the content and Facebook Ad Manager, everything else, like all those pieces are intertwined. How did you think about that when presented with Troy and the challenge of the Fitness SF team? And then what was the ways that you were able to go deliver against the ultimate goals of new memberships by piecing all of those things together?
Absolutely. And I think that that's a good kind of like general point to start with how marketing has just changed so much in like 2024 and even in the last like few years overall. The conversation used to be so much about like, how can you create the most customized target audience with like this tiniest group of retargeting, and like you can have 50 different campaigns with 100 ad sets, and like you should have that built out and everything should be really, uniquely separated out to this point where now actually all of the algorithms due to privacy regulation and changes in the consumer environment are going the other direction. They're saying, no, you need to have less campaigns. You need to have broader audiences. You need to let the algorithm work. You need to have creative that finds people instead of targeting that finds people. And so a lot of that, means that when you're coming in as a media buyer or someone who's trying to run ads, if you don't have the technology working, if you don't have the creative working, if you don't have all of those other things, there's not that many best practices for Meta or Google or any of these big platforms to tell you anymore. They're going to say, make a broad campaign, don't do any targeting on it, and unlimited budget, go. That's basically the recommendation for every single Meta or Google campaign ever. The truth is that's not the right way to go about it. But if you don't know about all of the technology aspects that we really started with when we started partnering with Fitness SF on this, that's where a lot of brands and businesses fall apart. So it's not that tagging itself can be super difficult, but the utilization of PII, personally identifying information, a privacy compliant solution that is making sure that you are not passing data illegally or out of compliance, all of those things really come into ensuring that your ads can perform as best as they can. In fact, just to give a quick example of something that we've been talking about a lot recently, having a cookie consent manager on your website actually improves your performance, because by having that in place, you can then legally send Meta, if you're a California business like Fitness SF is, you can legally send that information as long as it's previously disclosed. So understanding at PII, understanding the technology and the backend infrastructure that makes advertising work and is required to properly attribute your performance is the most mission critical thing for any step of buying. Because if you're not optimizing towards the right moment on your website, you're going to miss the mark. If you are not optimizing in a way that Meta can verify that it actually did what it was supposed to do on your website and it hit the mark, you're not going to get the result that you're looking for. And so technology, having a deep understanding of how your website's built, if you're using HubSpot, if you're using any of the other management systems, you have to have a custom solution. It's not going to always work the same way in every single case. We've been doing custom things for Fitness SF. We do custom things for every client we work on. So technology is the number one thing to start with, and making sure that that's right. Then moving beyond that and actually getting into the optimizations, the creative, as we have been saying, is the number one thing that you need to be continuously testing. You have to think about the messaging, you have to think about the volume of it, and you also have to think about what budgets and where it's coming back to it from. Ultimately, video is the king right now. And just like Stephen and Troy have been talking about, UGC content is one of the most effective ways to reach people. It's one of the most trustworthy ways to present information. And from all of that, it needs to be, when you can't optimize your paid media campaigns like you could 5 years ago even, you have to find new ways to optimize your media, which includes better use of your data, it includes better creative, it includes better and smarter content, and ultimately channel diversification in a way that allows you to say, we're not overly reliant here because Meta might change their algorithm tomorrow, and we're not overly reliant here because if this ever turns off, we're going to be in a bad spot. So ultimately, it's a really collaborative process with Troy and with the CIPIO team, because we need the creative on a regular cadence, or else we're going to run out of optimization juice. We need to have the technology perfect, and we need to be able to legally and openly and transparently share data that helps us run the business. Even just to give some quick stats, when we started, we were only doing 1-day free trials, which was essentially like, come in, check the gym out, see how it is. We've effectively started moving all of our campaigns straight towards new membership joins, which is actually money in the bank. Hey, people are signing up and becoming a member, which skips all the way past a 1-day free trial and actually gives revenue based on that ad itself. So
elongated process, right, is what I'm hearing. Like now it's not like, okay, let me give you a little carrot and then hope you still follow the carrot, and we're still, it's like, no, like, let's join the gym today.
Yeah, I think a lot of these people
Troy.
are doing a lot of research anyways before they're joining. Like they're not just on a whim joining. Like a lot of these people have been seeing all the content online of people working out in the weight room, in the gym, and maybe they've already seen Fitness SF a bunch of times. And then when they see the ad, they're like, oh yeah, click, boom, I'm joining. That's also another reason. Like people have more, obviously that goes to like the brand side, like trusting the brand, because you've seen a lot of it out there, and whether it's organic or UGC, whatever. But kind of to give like a zoom out picture, if we talk about my role in marketing the last 10 years, I mean, we were spending quite a bit on digital ads when I first started. This was 2015. We've probably chopped it down since then to about 60% of that, yet we have more locations. And we have, because organically growing the brand and optimizing as we went. Now, this next phase with Collier and his crew, it's basically about to push that. And so it pushed it down already, and it's about to push it down by probably 2.5 times lower. So that is where we can get to when everyone's talking about, which is true, Google, Meta, all these guys just want you to spend more money, and the competitive landscape has gotten so wild that all these big companies are just spending more and more money. And it's like, if you're a business like us, we're not that big. We seem kind of big, but we're 30,000 members. We have about 350 employees. And so we can't just keep spending more and more money on ads. And so we're at this point where we have more locations, more joins, and we're actually continuing to get the cost lower.
Totally. Cost keeps going. I got a cheaper, right? Like the idea here is how do my leads cost me less? How does it cost me less to bring on new members? How do I increase the return on ad spend, that I'm able to go generate? And if I'm generating, for every dollar that I spend, if I'm bringing $2.50 back, I'm in a great place.
Mm-hmm.
And even on that too, one of the other benefits of like this big change of being able to use ads to drive direct revenue is that is a less stressful and less costly way to acquire a new customer. The other methods that involve coming into a gym and signing up with a front desk person, calling in, there's different ways and methods, but this is a completely non-human automated process that essentially no one has to do anything except check that the card goes through, right? And they've got a new member. So you're not spending the money on the people power of it, the time from potentially reaching new customers. Like this is a process that actually saves you money as a business as well, while also being cheaper and more profitable.
And, and to go off Collier's point, you get this process of this lead funnel with the content and the conversion all the way to converting to a member. You get this thing down, you can really focus on experience afterwards, because that's where we're so ingrained to fill the bucket, new members, fill the bucket. But if you're putting all your effort in that, because that's literally what's draining all your time and energy, because you're constantly doing that, then you're almost not as much focused on the experience after they come in, which the other biggest thing for a gym is retention. So it's like, if you don't have a good experience after that, then but I know it's kind of off topic a little bit, but that's why it's also so important to get this side of things, the front side, nails, because it's like it will help streamline everything with less effort.
Yeah, totally. Streamline everything with less effort. Get people in the door that I need to with less effort. Not because we all want to put forth less effort in our jobs or roles, but because we'd like to dedicate it to an area that needs more effort, right? I mean, that's what I'm hearing. And that you're spot on, Troy. That experience, by the way, experience is now, I would say, arguably more important than a lot of the products that we use in today's day and age. People very, very focused on experiences regardless, the gym experience being a very high one on the list. And so for you, now where can I spend more of my time, my team's time, our operational thought process and time, because this is not taking it up anymore. I'm not trying to figure out how Facebook Ads Manager works. I've got this whole process, by the way, and it's not costing me an arm and a leg, because what I'm watching come back is in spades. I'm watching revenue go up, I'm watching costs go down, and I can also allocate my time where my business needs me most.
Yeah, and I was going to add to that, if you also zoom out to a consumer's perspective and you're scrolling around on social media and you're seeing original content from Fitness SF, you're seeing UGC from people working out at Fitness SF, and then you're seeing ads that were curated by CIPIO, that is the powerhouse. And then I expect that experience in person when I get there. So it's like, to that point. But all those things, it's like, this is what we're showing you. This is what you visually see and believe. And yeah, I mean.
So Collier, we talked a lot about the results so far, right? That they were able to see and the importance of technology. I think understanding the basis of like what's the quick wins or quick places that, not quick wins. What are the things that we need to assess first? I get technology, but like, are there like 3 areas that are really important to know and understand within your fitness business before you really start to implement all of these strategies and philosophies? Again, content doesn't work by itself. Ads don't work by themselves. Media buying doesn't work by itself. All those things come together. So what are the ways that you're thinking about auditing a business and understanding, hey, these are the 3 main things we really need to look at and make sure they're in the right place?
That's a great question. So the first thing that we always like to start with is like, what does the funnel look like currently? So how are people coming into the business? As we were talking about here, is it online? Is it on the phone? Is it coming in and having to sign up that way? Because starting there is the first part of like when you're marketing, okay, what do we need to do to make this work? So you have to understand like the actual baseline of your business and how you're bringing people in the door. Next, if that's not a digital process, which it is thankfully in this context, you probably need to have a digital process and also reduce the number of ways to get people in the door. So starting at the very beginning of it and saying, what are we going to optimize for? What is the key thing that we can actually grow and scale to is the first start of making any true like marketing plan or strategy at that level. The second thing is you really shouldn't start spending money on ads or any of that until you have some level of growth and sales to begin with. Everybody needs to be able to get off the ground a bit and start showing a little bit of movement all by yourself to show that there's product fit, there's a customer niche that's interested in this before you start spending. It's really hard to go from 0 sales and start spending money because then you're just kind of sitting there and trying to find the customer and also get it off the ground. And if there's something wrong there, which you would know if something was wrong based on that previous question, you can fix that. After that point, it's going in and actually like utilizing your data that you can. You need to get everything pixeled. You need to have the audiences thought through. You need to start running your first preliminary tests at low budget. And again, so if you have a website and you're a business that has been around for a year even, getting a pixel on your website and starting to build retargeting off of that, utilizing the events and conversions to build lookalikes off of the key actions in those platforms is critical. And as time goes on and you can eventually start building up your own customer list, importing your customer list straight into the platform, utilizing email as an identifier or phone number, that gives you then a strong seed to again continue to find similar groups. But it starts with understanding what you're going to be optimizing your media for. It goes to, do I have enough current volume that I know that my system works and that by adding more money to this, I should be able to see and track it? And then 3, that last part, I kind of said it, can I measure it? And do I have a way to be sure that this equals this? That was the thing that Troy and I spent the absolute most time on. And we're still doing a little bit of it now because it's a forever process. As your program becomes more sophisticated, you're going to keep working on measurement, but you need to be able to measure things properly. And then, make sure you have audiences and keep testing. The only way to win in marketing today is just to keep testing. When you finish that last test, start the next one. Because again, with a lack of optimization tactics in front of us, creative costs money and time to produce. The only thing you can reliably trust on is your brain, your ability to find new ideas and validate your ideas through repeated testing and growth. Because you got to find out what works for you. Best practices are only good for so far. You need to find your best practices, which only comes from that starting from the beginning of, we're trying to get new members. How are we going to do that? We're have them go online. How are we going to target and reach them? We're going to make sure that we are utilizing lookalikes, first-party data attribution, and we're going to verify because we have a comprehensive tracking solution that sends into a HubSpot or a source of truth. So,
and one of the things I heard you say that I think is really important here is it's a forever process.
Yeah.
Right. Like that stuck out as in what you just said and all of these things. And Troy, I think this goes back to your comment of, well, if it's a forever process, I better choose a partner that I enjoy working with and that has similar goals, ideas, that wants to be, work with me. And that means that, they're not focused on businesses that are way bigger than mine and that I'm not going to be able to afford, but they're also not so small that they can't be able to help me. Like, they have a niche that allows you to help businesses and 3 to 15 location gyms and studios. Is there a place for them, right? I mean, I know that's one of the things that you guys have struggled with across the way. Like, talk about the partnership in general, right? You mentioned that finding a good partner is important. Talk about just what that partnership has been like for you so far.
Well, I also think about it in terms of it's like hiring an employee. It's like you're going to see this person every day or every week or every month. It's like, do you want it to be someone that you can enjoy talking with and share ideas with and be around? And I don't know, just in general, right? Like, sure. So the partnership in general has been great. The whole team has been involved. I'm constantly getting, pinged by you guys to get feedback, which I think is super crucial, is like the feedback loop. It's like, okay, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? Where can we help? That might not be exactly what we do, but where can we help? And then it sparks new ideas for the business to maybe even get creative and go a different, add another direction or whatever the case might be. I operate the same way if someone wants to partner with us from a different angle. It's like, I'm open to whatever they say, and then I'll say, you know what, that is innovative, or that is creative, or how can we kind of make this work? Because that's where magic happens, is when you're not doing the same things out of the box, cookie cutter over and over. It's like, that's kind of what I have to say about that.
I view us in that regard too, right? I mean, I know you've talked a lot about being our partner, but I view us as yours as well. And honestly, I should be here saying thank you, because you guys are one of the partners that's pushed us to say, hey, we do content sourcing at CIPIO, right? It's like, well, how can we be more effective with that? Okay, great. We do ad creation. Yeah, we put AI in all of it. It's pretty cool. Okay, that's great. But what about what's the next? I need help with this as a partner. I need help with this. Okay, well, now let's build this Fitness 360 solution that allows you to source content, that allows you to create ads, that allows you to do the media buying on your behalf and all at your direction, Troy, but without having to grow that headcount ridiculously, without having to go, spend a ton of money. But now all of those three pieces are together, and they're achieving the results that I need. The whole reason I set out on this journey in the first place was because I was looking for specific results. And now all of a sudden that I've put these things in play, those results are now starting to hit home. And we're seeing those make a meaningful difference in our business. Heck, just look at the growth. Look at the number of locations. Look how our business is growing. That should be the biggest showcase of success overall. As I continue to grow as a business, this has to be a staple of the reason people are believing in Fitness SF.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, guys, I think our time has wrapped. This has been super fun. In this part of this series, we've gotten more and more folks that have said, this is great. Give us some specific examples. So I'm excited to have this one as part of the conversation that said, these are the specific ways we thought about our business, the specific goals we had to go reach out to go achieve. And then what were the tactics we took to get there? So I think that's going to be really exciting. Additionally, I'm going to include a case study. Troy, you guys were nice enough to assemble a case study with us. That'll be linked in this video as well, showing how all of these things were achieved, what we would do. And if you're a fitness studio, gym location, multi-location, somewhere between 3 and 15 studios, we would love to try to help you with the Fitness 360 package as well. See if we can help you get on the same page as Fitness SF. So with that, Collier, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate your insights on the media buying. Troy, thank you for your partnership. We really appreciate you being here and having this conversation with us today, and look forward to continued success and results for Fitness SF and others beyond.
All right. Thanks, Stephen.
Likewise.
Thanks, Collier.
Thanks, everyone. Yes, great combo. All right. Bye.
Cool.
Nice. It's great.
I like this software. I might actually start using this.
Nice.
So this software basically records so that you can chop it up into, how does this software work in a broad sense? Just
editing. So basically what it does that's a little bit different. What Zoom does that's so like, let's compare it to Zoom real fast. Zoom puts everybody in a virtual instance. And then if you want to record the call, one party decides to record, Zoom just grabs the screen and records on one local call what's happening in there. The way Riverside works is that it actually syncs the time between the three of us, records locally, Troy, on your machine, on Collier's machine, on my machine, in the background uploads it so that you actually keep so that you keep high quality, the content is of high quality, and then it still aligns and matches along with the conversation, but you don't lose that, like somebody goes out or doesn't show up or the feed isn't good or whatever on Zoom, they skip out on audio. So they try to minimize that. And then on top of that, they've built in, it's really built for these like kind of video podcasts. On top of that, behind the scenes, they've built in all these editing tools that allow you to slice, dice, cut up the content, create it into smaller snippets and everything else. And so, yeah, man, it's cool. It has so much more functionality than Zoom around, you can see it on the right, like echo cancellation, and you can actually talk about like how high quality you actually want it to be in based on the camera somebody has, and make sure that their volume is like all these things that Zoom is meant to get people quickly and have a conversation. This is meant to have create a higher quality content experience.
For sure. No, I like it. I've been looking for something like this, so I'm glad we did it on this, because I'm like, and I've seen your videos too. It's like, chops it up and down, like vertical. You can put you up there, them down there. I've seen it. It's cool.
Yep, exactly right. So awesome. All right, guys. Well, this was really good. I'm going to get this into
11 o'clock on the dot.
I know, man.